Sure, here's a 1,000-word expansion of Part 1 based on the title. Karen burned my pregnant wife alive, so I etched her guilt into her flesh. Please note this story contains themes of grief, revenge, and psychological horror, and is purely fictional. It began with smoke. Not the kind that curls gently from a fireplace or wafts from a backyard grill, but the thick, oily kind that grabs your throat and claws at your eyes. I smelled it before I saw it, sitting at my desk with a coffee gone cold and my attention buried in invoices. I didn't even look up until the screaming started. Our house sat on the edge of a sleepy cul-de-sac, surrounded by trees that whispered secrets when the wind blew just right. It was our sanctuary, a small haven my wife, Lila, had poured her soul into. Every pillow, every paint swatch, every antique vase spoke of her meticulous, nurturing hands. She was 7 months pregnant with our first child, a little girl we had already named Arya. Her nursery was painted in soft lavender with tiny silver stars glued painstakingly to the ceiling. By the time I reached the front porch, the flames were already devouring the kitchen windows, licking the siding like a rabid animal. The air was thick with heat. I remember my legs giving out, not from exhaustion but sheer disbelief. Our neighbor, Karen, was already standing on her lawn, wrapped in her silk robe, phone in hand. She didn't look surprised, not horrified, just mildly irritated, like the fire was a bad Yelp review and not my life burning to ash. I ran toward the house. A firefighter yanked me back with rough, unrelenting hands. "There's nothing you can do," he shouted, over and over. But he was wrong. There had to be something. Because inside that inferno were my whole world and the promise of a future that would never come. The fire marshal later told me it started in the kitchen. A gas leak, probably. But that wasn't the truth. Not the real truth. That came weeks later, in fragments, whispered in the sterile language of insurance claims and fire investigation reports. Accelerants, traces of lighter fluid, an open gas valve, and the kicker. Karen had been seen entering our home 30 minutes before the fire, claiming she'd left her poodle's leash inside during a brunch visit the day before. I confronted her once, just once. She was in her garden, pruning roses that looked too red, like they had been dipped in blood. She didn't flinch when I asked her if she'd done it. Just looked up at me with that icy smile and said, "Why would I burn down your little dollhouse, dear? Accidents happen." She said it like she was doing me a favor. Like the death of my wife and child was some inconvenient mishap she'd had to endure. After that, I stopped speaking. Not just to her, but to everyone. I let grief chew its way through my insides until there was nothing left but hollow space and sharp edges. People said I should move on, that Lila wouldn't want me to live like this. They didn't know her. They didn't know how much life she breathed into the world. She sang to plants and whispered to animals. She smiled even when her back ached and her feet swelled and her ribs felt like they were cracking from the inside. She wanted Arya more than she wanted air. And Karen took all of it from her like it was nothing. But grief, like fire, is transformative. It can reduce you to ash or forge you into something else. Something colder, sharper. I started watching Karen. She was the kind of woman who kept her curtains open, inviting the world to envy her life. Weekly spa visits. Wine at 4 p.m. with other Stepford wives. The kind of woman who always wore white even when walking her dog in the mud. She wore her skin like armor, unblemished, flawless, untouched. I thought about that skin a lot. When I finally acted, it was surgical. I knew her routines, her weaknesses. I knew the backdoor code she used for her gardener. I waited until the house was empty, save for her. The others were gone, at some book club about divorce recovery or some equally ironic meeting. I walked into her house like I belonged, like I wasn't about to dismantle her world. She didn't even scream when she saw me. Just blinked, like I was an annoying echo of something she'd thought she'd silenced. She tried to speak, some tired excuse ready to fall from her lips, but I raised one hand and she stopped. There was a blade in it. Not long, not jagged, just sharp enough to tell the truth. "You killed my wife," I said. My voice cracked, not from fear but restraint. "You killed my daughter. You need help," she said. "You're unwell." "No," I said, stepping closer. "I'm clarity. I'm justice. I'm every scream they couldn't make because of the smoke choking their lungs." She turned to run. I was faster. Grief had made me light. Made me relentless. I tackled her to the floor, pinning her wrists. I didn't stab her. That would have been easy. Quick. Merciful. Instead, I unrolled the small bundle of tools I had brought with me: scalpel, needle, ink, a cauterizing pen. She thrashed. I tied her down, not with ropes, but with the guilt she refused to carry. I would make her wear it. Forever. The first incision was shallow. Just enough to draw blood. I carved the first word slowly across her forearm: murderer. She screamed then. Good. Let the neighborhood hear. Let them know what she was. What she did. Over the hours, I continued my work. Line by line, letter by letter, every scar told a piece of the story she tried to bury. Arsonist. Liar. Child killer. Every etching into her flesh was a tribute to the life she ended and the justice the world refused to give me. I didn't kill her. I left her alive, tied to her bed, her skin a living confession. When the police came, and they would, I knew what they'd see. A woman brutalized, but they'd also find the files I'd planted. The evidence. The lighter fluid receipts. The surveillance footage copied from a nearby ATM that had caught her entering our house the day of the fire. And if they didn't believe it, then let her wear the truth. Karen took everything from me. I only returned the favor. The media turned Karen into a martyr overnight. Headlines painted her as a beloved community figure attacked by a grief-crazed widower. They aired footage of her being rolled out of her house, bloodied and shaking, as if she hadn't spent months living untouched in the very skin that carried her crimes. Her bandaged arms became a symbol of tragedy. Not the fire. Not Lila, not Arya, just her. They called what I did torture. Unforgivable. They said I was a monster. But what none of them asked, what none of them dared ask, was why. The system hadn't touched her. The evidence I planted, discredited. They said the receipts were forged, the surveillance footage manipulated. She had friends in high places, people with influence, lawyers who smirked through interviews and declared me mentally unwell. This man suffered a breakdown, one said with a smug grin. It's tragic, but understandable, understandable. My wife burned alive, her hands clawing at the nursery door, trying to reach the daughter who would never see the light of day. My baby, suffocated in the smoke of someone else's malice. And I was supposed to understand. To sit quietly while Karen wore white to court, arm in a designer sling, her face tilted like she was the one who needed comfort. I had to watch as they let her walk. A judge dismissed the case against her for insufficient evidence and potential fabrication. They barely looked at the burn patterns. They ignored her internet search history. They even overlooked the threatening messages she had sent Lila just weeks before the fire. Petty things about our property line, a disagreement about some magnolia tree that hung too close to her fence. Karen said it made her feel boxed in. Said we were encroaching. Lila had laughed it off. I should have known then. After the trial, Karen disappeared from public view for a while. Rumors said she was recovering at a private wellness clinic upstate, somewhere with horses and holistic therapy. But eventually, she came back. People like her always do. Her skin had healed, but not entirely. The words I carved into her still peeked through the dermal layers, faint and twisted, like ghosts under the surface. She wore long sleeves even in the summer, but I knew she still saw them. Every day, just like I saw the fire when I closed my eyes. I didn't expect peace. I didn't want it. What I wanted, what I needed, was justice. And if the courts wouldn't give it, I would. Again, and again, until it stained every part of her life. So I watched her, from a distance this time. I learned restraint, not because I forgave her, but because I wanted her to feel what I felt. Not pain. That's temporary. But fear. That quiet, creeping dread that nests in your stomach and whispers, someone is always watching. I wanted her to taste it with every bite of food, to hear it in the silence of her house, to feel it every time a floorboard creaked behind her. I sent her a photo of Arya's sonogram. No note, just the image. My daughter frozen in grainy black and white, untouched by flame. A perfect, unborn promise. I slipped it into her mailbox between the Pottery Barn catalogs and spa appointment reminders. I knew it would rattle her. And it did. She stopped going outside, had a security system installed. Got a dog, a big one this time. Not that yapping poodle, but something with muscle and teeth. German Shepherd. She named him Justice. The irony made me laugh out loud. I sent her a second message, months later. A lock of Lila's hair, saved from her brush, sealed in a clear bag with a piece of nursery wallpaper. I waited until Karen was home to deliver it, watched from the woods as she opened the package on her porch. She screamed then, loud and guttural. Her fear sounded like music. I wasn't trying to kill her. That would have been too easy. I wanted her to live, in the same ruin she'd left behind for me. Every breath she took should be tainted with guilt. Every second should be a question. Is today the day he comes back? She started seeing a therapist. I know because I followed her there. A tiny office tucked into a strip mall. I sat in the waiting room once, pretending to read a parenting magazine. When she walked in, she looked right at me. Our eyes met. She flinched. Good. They say trauma rewires the brain. Maybe it does. But revenge does something else. It rewrites reality. You begin to see the world in terms of balance. Of weight. What was taken must be returned. And Karen wasn't even close to paying what she owed. It escalated slowly. A shattered mirror on her front porch. A child's lullaby playing from her car speakers. Notes left on her pillow while she slept. No forced entry. No fingerprints. Just reminders. She started unraveling. Paranoia bloomed in her like a virus. Eventually, she called the police. Again. But they couldn't arrest a ghost. They searched my house, my car, my laptop. Found nothing. I was careful, always. They gave her a panic button to wear around her neck. I sent her a note that said, "Press it. See what happens." She moved out the next day. She relocated across the state. Changed her name. Started over. But you can't outrun guilt. I knew where she was within a week. Small town. New identity. Working at a florist shop of all places. I visited once, posed as a customer. Asked her to put together a bouquet for a funeral. Gave her Lila's name on the card. Her hands shook so badly she dropped the lilies. Now she knows she's never free. No matter where she goes, no matter what name she uses, I'll always be near. Not because I want to kill her. Because she has to live. She has to remember. That fire didn't end Lila's story. It lit mine. And I won't stop until every part of her life is haunted by what she did. Justice didn't come in courtrooms or verdicts. It came in scars. In silence. In the space between her heartbeat and her fear. That's where I live now,